Several prominent Republicans are continuing to push back against both mask rules and COVID vaccines, even though we now have significant evidence that the vaccines cut down on transmission, can help protect others and get us back to normal. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. When it comes to masks and vaccinations, there's been a lot of dumb opinions. For example, yesterday, former GOP Congressman Jason Chaffetz, who's now a Fox News contributor, trotted out what he apparently thought was a brilliant analogy to criticize mandates.
I think one of the principles that people just tend to forget about, which is the proper role of government. The proper role of government is to inform the public, but we believe in the United States of America about self-determination, that we get to make those decisions. The
Yes.
government can help provide the information. They have a Centers for Disease Control. But there are lots of diseases that kids could potentially get. I mean, we could all not die driving down the freeway at 55 or 70 or 80 miles an hour if we all drove 3 miles an hour. But you know what? We put the warnings up there. We put a speed limit up there. We say, hey, we'd rather you not do this. And there are consequences, and some people have suffer those consequences. But self-determination is the principle here.
Ooh, I hate to be one of those speed limit signs you seem to hate, but slow down, pal. First of all, do you think speed limits are just suggestions? If that were the case, wouldn't the signs be phrased a little differently? Also, the proper role of government isn't just to inform the public. Sure, it's one of the roles. You want them to inform, but you also want them to act. FDR didn't give a fireside chat in 1940 saying Paris has fallen to Nazi Germany. Please let us know how you'd like us to proceed. Also, I love how he accidentally backed himself into arguing for mandates when he admitted there are consequences for breaking the speed limit. A rule set by the government that has consequences for breaking it? That's a mandate, bro. You sound like a guy just spitballing an argument for an open marriage. Monogamy is a construct. When the priest said, "Do you take this woman?" he wasn't pointing at anybody. So there are a lot of dumb takes out there about masks and vaccines. By far, the worst take so far came from Marjorie Taylor Greene, whose every utterance sounds like it's coming from someone being dragged backwards out of a Costco, grabbing at the DVD rack. She's like the lady at the PTA meeting who argues that math violates the Constitution. According to the First Amendment, 2 + 2 = whatever I say it does. Ma'am, do you even have a child at this school? Oh, I guess I need children to have an opinion on the curriculum for a school 2 towns over from mine? I didn't know I was living in Soviet Russia. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has decided to keep the House's mask mandate in place until more Republicans get vaccinated because so many have apparently refused. In a recent survey, for example, CNN found that Democratic lawmakers in both chambers of Congress have a 100% vaccination rate. Meanwhile, for Republicans, at least 44.8% of House members are vaccinated. So Pelosi has said she'll keep the House mask mandate in place for now. And in response, Greene, who has a history of anti-Semitism, used an absolutely insane and grotesque analogy.
This woman is mentally ill. You know, we can look back in a time in history where people were told to wear a gold star, and they were definitely treated like second-class citizens, so much so that they were put in trains and taken to gas chambers in Nazi Germany. And this is exactly the type of abuse that Nancy Pelosi is talking about.
She's mentally ill. You just compare to having to wear a mask to prevent transmission of a highly contagious respiratory illness to the Holocaust. I'd say you should be wearing a straitjacket, but with you, I'm guessing a normal jacket put on backwards would probably do the trick. How do I get out of this? The Antifa Democrats have trapped me in a windbreaker. This is just like Nazi Germany. I mean, holy as a general rule, and this goes for everyone, don't compare anything to the Holocaust ever, especially if you're the lady who famously said wildfires are caused by Jewish space lasers. Who knows? Maybe that'll be your excuse. I want to apologize for my comments comparing masks to the Holocaust. I don't know what got into me, but I expect it was a ray beam from a Jewish space laser. Do not wrestle the mic away from me. I am making a very good point. Now, obviously, the CDC guidance on masks for fully vaccinated people has changed. That guidance is informed by growing scientific evidence as well as increasing vaccination rates, which is why it's so frustrating that so many Republicans in Congress and throughout the country have said they won't get vaccinated. Now, we've all been living with this pandemic for 16 months now, and it's obviously changed our behavior in some pretty dramatic ways, which is totally understandable. I mean, early on, we all thought we could catch COVID from our mail or our doorknobs. The science pretty quickly showed us those scenarios are very unlikely, but that hasn't stopped my wife from putting the mail in the microwave and putting the microwave in the dishwasher. No one, I should stress, no one was more relieved than me to find out it was unlikely to transmit via mail, because a bunch of times I told my wife I had wiped down the mail when in fact I had not. They just reached a breaking point where I would have preferred dying to wiping down the mail again. It also did not help that my mom, true story, decided to send my kids a letter a day for the entire pandemic. An incredible act of love from a grandmother, but a total failure to consider the circumstances. The only thing that could have been more terrifying is if she'd tied each letter to a brick and chucked it through our window. But she's the best, and I can't stay mad at her. Anyway, the point is it takes time to break the habits we've all formed during the pandemic, like mask wearing. I've been fully vaccinated for a while now, and I still don't feel totally comfortable showing people the lower half of my face. It's like being the first person to take your shirt off at a pool party. Like, we all know we have to take our shirts off at some point, but being the first one to do so is still weird. So then you start chanting someone else's name to make them go first, and then he does, and he has a weird scar, and then you feel bad, and it's still 3 hours before your mom is due to pick you up. Anyway, I'm sorry, Dave, that was not cool of me. So naturally, a lot of us were a little taken aback at first when the CDC announced a major shift earlier this month and said fully vaccinated adults no longer need to wear masks outdoors or indoors. Even businesses were unsure how to react at first, which left a lot of people confused.
A huge shift in life as we have known it for the last year and change. If you are fully vaccinated, the CDC now says you can now ditch your mask outdoors and indoors. But again, that's only if you've been fully vaccinated.
Tonight, at least 18 states already lifting their mask mandates. But there are many businesses across the country still concerned, still hoping customers will wear masks. Many businesses still deciding what they'll do. Kroger, for one, saying they will keep the mask mandate. Target and Home Depot doing the same. But Walmart tonight saying they'll drop the masks. Trader Joe's was the first major grocery store to drop the mask mandate today, as long as shoppers are vaccinated.
First of all, I think it's Kroger's, not Kroger. Second of all, of course Trader Joe's was the first. I'm honestly shocked Trader Joe's had any rules at all, let alone a mask mandate. It's like if Jimmy Buffett were a grocery store. One time I bought some of their everything but the bagel seasoning, and it didn't have a price on it, so I asked the cashier how much it cost, and they said, whatever you want to pay for it. And then they whispered, you want to do a line? And I said, a line of everything but the bagel seasoning? And they said, no, man, I'm just kidding. But I, for real, don't think they were. The point is, it's confusing and everyone's doing their best. Even when you go get coffee, you can see people trying to thread the needle, like they have a mask around their ear or below their mouth, or my personal favorite, the wrist mask, as if to say, I'm not going to wear it, but I know about it. And look, it's a complicated situation and the science is always evolving, and there are differing views among epidemiologists and policymakers about the best path forward. A lot of scientists were expecting this guidance and agree with it, but they just thought it would come a little later this summer instead of earlier this month.
I think what happened was the CDC kind of got ahead of everyone a little bit and did it sooner than most of us thought. So I was expecting this sometime in June, so it's a couple of weeks early. I think it'll be okay, but I think the stores, the businesses, the universities need a little time to catch up and have some internal discussions. And over time, over the summer, as more and more people get vaccinated, as virus transmission continues to decline, people will have more of a comfort level with the new guidance.
It's true. The guidance might have come a little early, but eventually, hopefully, it'll work itself out and people will get comfortable with it. I know it's going to take me some time. I mean, for one thing, I'm still shocked just to find out what the entirety of people's faces look like. I thought it would be thrilling to see the lower halves of the folks I met during the pandemic, and instead, I'm shocked to see how little they match my expectations. It turns out the eyes are no indicator of what's happening from the nostril to the chin. This has been my reaction to every person upon seeing their mouth for the first time. Huh! Not what I would have thought. In some cases, the bottom half reveal can completely change how you feel about a person. Like, I found out my new dentist has a soul patch, and now I'm starting to doubt the benefits of flossing. And by the way, if you go somewhere and they still have a mask policy, don't be one of those people who thinks it's their don't tread on me moment. You're not Ethan Allen, and this isn't Fort Ticonderoga. Just be cool and wear your mask. Now, the key here is vaccination. That's what's making this possible. About 60% of adults have received at least one dose, and the Biden administration has set a goal of getting at least one dose to 70% of Americans by July 4th. And there's two reasons for that. One, you're protecting yourself. And two, the science is now telling us these vaccines are so effective, you're also protecting others. Because it's not just that the vaccines are very likely to keep you from getting sick. There's now growing evidence that they also strongly curb transmission, meaning that if you get vaccinated, you're very unlikely to spread coronavirus to others, and that That is huge.
Since we started vaccinating people en masse and collecting real-world data, it became very clear that not only were vaccines really good at keeping people from getting sick, they were also really good at keeping people from getting infected, because you could be infected without getting sick. But then the third component was that even if you did get an infection, even if you tested positive for COVID after having been vaccinated, it was very unlikely you'd ever develop enough virus in your body to then transmit it to others.
There's a new piece of science, and this is coming out of Israel earlier this month, that's showing that vaccinated individuals, if they do get asymptomatic infection, it's about 90% protective against asymptomatic infection. If they do get asymptomatic infection, they're not shedding very much virus from their nose and mouth. So even though they have asymptomatic infection, we think they're not actually transmitting the virus. And that's really important news.
After this pandemic is over, I never want to hear about shedding from any orifice ever again. Sounds like some weird drug slang you'd hear at a rave in Williamsburg. Hey man, do you shed from the nose or the mouth? Neither. I just do everything but the bagel seasoning. But that's how it works. When you get coronavirus and you're not vaccinated, the virus develops in your body and you shed from your nose and mouth. And if you have an especially high viral load, you could shed a lot. And if you're indoors with no ventilation and no masks and multiple people are potentially shedding the virus, that's how you get super spreader events, especially if you're surrounded by a family of germ factory mouth breathers like the Olympic bobshed team over here. Their noses flare like the mainsails of a mighty schooner. These dudes are such heavy mouth breathers. When they suck in air, they sound like a Dyson Airblade. This is why vaccination is the key to getting rid of masks, and it's also why it's a problem that so many Republicans in Congress and in polls said they won't get vaccinated. Now, to their credit, some Republican politicians have put out videos urging people to take the vaccine, like Louisiana Senator John Kennedy, although I'm not sure how effective his messaging has been.
Born free as the wind blows, as free as the grass grows, born free to follow your heart. Live free and beauty surrounds you. The world still astounds you each time you look at a star. I'm Senator John Kennedy. I can't sing very well, but I'm free. Be free. Be cool. Get the vaccine. I did. It works.
Are you ready to go, Senator Kennedy? I am, but I'm going to do the whole verse. We don't think you don't need to do the whole. I think if we just get born free out there, it will be fine with that. I'm going to do the whole verse. Is tone deafness one of the side effects? You sound like a dying cat. I'm not sure if I should congratulate you for being pro-vaccine or rush you to the vet. I can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe take singing lessons from Chuck Schumer. New York is back, baby. We may not have Broadway yet, but until then, we'll have to settle for Chuck S., a.k.a. Public Enema. I wonder if his kids got vaccinated for embarrassment. You know, I don't always agree with Chuck, but you do have to admire how much he's enjoying himself. Trump's gone, he's Senate Majority Leader, he's vaxxed, relaxed, and living it to the max. It's the summer of Chuck. That's the life you could be living if you got vaccinated. And unfortunately, there are still too many prominent Republicans lying about the vaccines and bragging about the fact that they won't get vaccinated, like Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson, who has suggested there might be some sort of shadowy plot behind the vaccine push, or Senator Rand Paul, who announced over the weekend that he won't be getting vaccinated.
Until they show me evidence that people who've already had the infection are dying in large numbers or being hospitalized or getting very sick, I've just made my own personal decision that I'm not getting vaccinated because I've already had the disease and I have natural immunity now.
Look, if you're comfortable getting by with what your body produces on its own, then you should take off that regional theater wig of yours. Now, look, obviously, you're allowed to make your own personal decisions. No one's going to strap you to a gurney and inject you with a vaccine. This isn't a Clockwork Orange situation, even though Rudy Giuliani does always look like he's strapped to a chair and being forced to watch his scene in Borat. How did I not know it was a setup? Also, Senator, you're wrong about a bunch of things. For one thing, the CDC still recommends getting vaccinated even if you've had COVID. And perhaps most importantly, as we already explained, it's not just about you, it's about preventing transmission to others. And as we just explained, the evidence suggests vaccines do that. For some reason, that's the point these right-wingers all refuse to acknowledge. It's not just about you, it's about protecting everyone. And yet these people refuse, either because they don't care or because they have the self-entitlement of someone.
Driving down the freeway at 55 or 70 or 80 miles an hour.
This has been a closer look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help now more than ever. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, wear a mask, get vaccinated. We love you.